Hey everybody, Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government here. I hope you like that intro. David worked really hard putting that together. And, I wanted to do today something that maybe we should do more. Senator Josh Hawley last week had the opportunity to query Attorney General Merrick Garland about some of the abuse of power at the FBI. Remember, the FBI reports to Department of Justice. And I want to play this clip. It's a little bit long, but I think it's informative and it's not dull, let me tell you, because real fireworks were occurring. And remember, Merrick Garland's the guy who Barack Obama thought should be on the Supreme Court. So when you watch this, just, you can make your own judgment whether you think this guy should have been on the Supreme Court. But here you go.
Does your department have a problem with anti-Catholic bias?
Our department protects all religions and all ideologies. It does not have any bias against any religion of any kind.
Well, you could have surprised me, because given the resources that you are expending and the apparently intelligence assets that you are deploying against Catholics, it appears, and other people of faith, while simultaneously turning a blind eye while people are executed gang style in the streets of our cities, including in my home state, your answer frankly surprises me. Let's talk about the Mark Houck case, for example. You've been asked about this already today, and frankly, your answers really astound me. This is a case where a Catholic pro-life demonstrator, father, was accused of disorderly conduct in front of an abortion center. The local prosecutor, the Philadelphia district attorney, who is a Democrat, a liberal, very progressive, declined to prosecute. There was a private suit that got dismissed. And then after all of that, your Justice Department sent between 20 and 30 armed agents in the early morning hours to the Houck's private residence to arrest this guy after he had offered to turn himself in voluntarily. Here's the photo. Once again, you can see the long guns. You can see the ballistic shields. You can see that they're wearing bulletproof vests. Why did the Justice Department do this? Why did you send 20 to 30 SWAT-style agents and a SWAT-style team to this guy's house when everybody else had declined to prosecute and he'd offered to turn himself in?
Determinations of how to make arrests under arrest warrants are made based by the tactical operators in the district. They are not.
But you surely looked into it by this point, right? You know the answer, surely.
All I know is what the FBI has said, which is that they made decisions on the ground as to what was safest and easiest. So you do not agree with your description of what.
Okay, I'm going to stop this right here just for a second to note. This is the same Merrick Garland who overturned the local field agents in Palm Beach, Florida, who said, no, we don't want you to go in and tell Donald Trump in advance that you're going to come into the property and look for classified documents. We want to have it be a full-on FBI raid. He's the one, he overruled local agents when it came to raiding Mar-a-Lago and said, no, we want a full-on raid in Mar-a-Lago. So when he talks about it being the local agent's decision, please understand it was a local agent's decision, except until he didn't agree with it and wanted to do something that was much more theatrical. I'll let it go back to the testimony now, but I couldn't let that pass.
What happened on the
You don't agree with what the photo is. There are agents here who have long guns and ballistic shields. Let's take a look at the hardened criminals that your Justice Department sent these armed agents to go terrorize on that morning. Here they are at Mass. Here's the 7 children with Mr. Houck and his wife. In this early morning, they were all at home. Mrs. Houck has said repeatedly the children were screaming. They feared for their lives. You got these agents demanding that he come out. They've got the guns, she said, pointing at the house and at them. He has offered to turn himself in. And this is who you go to terrorize. What's really interesting to me is this seems to directly contradict your own memorandum about the use of force at the Justice Department. You say officers may use only the force that is objectively reasonable to effectively control an incident. Are you telling me that in your opinion as Attorney General, it was objectively necessary to use 20 or 30 SWAT-style agents with long guns and ballistic shields for these people?
What I'm saying is that decisions about how to go about this were made on the ground by FBI agents.
So you're saying you don't know?
I'm saying what I just said.
Which is that you're abdicating responsibility?
I'm not abdicating
Then
responsibility.
give me the answer. Do you think, in your opinion, you are the Attorney General of the United States? You are in charge of the Justice Department. And yes, sir, you are responsible. So give me an answer.
The FBI does not agree with your description.
I'm not asking about the FBI. You are the Attorney General. Give me your answer. Do you think that it was objectively reasonable and they followed your guidelines in sending 20 to 30 armed agents to terrorize these people? Yes or no?
The facts I have, which are those presented by the FBI, are not consistent with your description.
So you think it was reasonable?
I'm saying the facts are not as you describe.
What, that the children weren't there? That there weren't long guns there? That there weren't agents? What do you dispute? What's the factual premise you dispute? Be
FBI
specific.
said they don't agree with your description of
Be specific. They don't agree with what?
of how many agents, of the agents who were there, and of what their roles were. They don't agree.
Do you know
That's
the
all I can
jury
say.
in this case acquitted Mr. Houck? So I'm sure you're aware. Do you know how long it took him?
I am aware, and we respect the decision of the jury.
Do you know how long it took him?
I don't know.
1 hour. 1 hour.
Wow. Now, we sit there and we talk about this stuff, and 1 hour means that jury said, you guys don't have a case. What are you doing? The reason why Senator Hawley points out at the beginning that the Philadelphia DA declined to prosecute. Philadelphia DA is a Soros DA, a Soros elected DA. He declined to prosecute. He brought that up because to show how absurd the FBI action was. He goes on and drills Garland on the incredible memo that came out of the Richmond office of the FBI, which specifically targeted Catholics and it was based on Southern Poverty Law Center efforts to demonize the Catholic Church based upon their disagreement, their clear reading of the Bible related to homosexual marriage. So the Richmond office of the FBI put out a memo which essentially categorized Catholics as being terrorist groups, and and Garland, to his credit, says that he was appalled by that. And truth be told, I don't think Hawley really bought it. But this is an ongoing problem. You're all aware of the problem. The FBI, the Department of Justice, are out of control. We've been subjected to FBI raids for the last 4 or 5 years. Early morning raids on Roger Stone, on Paul Manafort. People were going to turn themselves in, but no, you had to have the show raid for CNN's broadcast in the morning. It's really disgusting what's been happening. And one of the things that Congress is doing right now is they're voting on it right now, actually. About 20 minutes they're scheduled to vote on this legislation, HR 140, which has had some ups and downs. It was amended yesterday. We put out something today without seeing the amendment, but it was amended to make it so it does what it's supposed to do, and that is make it so it's much harder for the FBI and federal agencies to use social media companies to censor private speech, lawful speech, and as a result, it's a reiteration of the First Amendment. It shouldn't have to be passed by the House, but it is in fact a direct prohibition with penalties. That, of course, the Department of Justice has to do the investigation to have penalties, and if they're the ones violating the law, there's no investigation, so it's a little circular. But bottom line is, it's a piece of legislation that at least puts directly in the face the FBI, Homeland Security, and other government agencies that Congress is not, that they're not supposed to be censoring speech, and they're not supposed to be directing the censorship of speech by social media companies. Whether the bill has any real effect, it's hard to tell, but we initially, the way it was written, actually the way it was written in the second version that came out, it said it basically did the exact opposite. It inadvertently, I think, made it so the speech would be the FBI were the one group of people who could, in fact, go after speech and after lawful speech. And so it's been changed, and the Congress is passing something which is it's not a bad thing, and we did support it. Kudos to Representative Dan Bishop from North Carolina, who saw the same constitutional problem that we did and jumped into it last night. Got an amendment in Rules Committee that changed the bill to make it so unlawful. The FBI could investigate unlawful speech. Unlawful being defined as speech that's not protected by the First Amendment, and so it is and so it's just a different. It is Congress taking action. It is a good thing. I'm going to take look at a couple of these different comments and just kind of go through it. Florida girl, you lead it off. First comment of the day, actually. Good afternoon. I look forward to the day when I see those locking bracelets come out and people are escorted out to the concrete bed and breakfast. I have to tell you, I'm being here in DC and seeing how the court systems work in DC. I am somewhat. I'm not as positive that happens, that will happen in my lifetime, and I'm not planning on going away anytime soon. Let's see here. Yeah, Deb, it isn't amazing. His AG is attacking essentially the Roman Catholic Church and various parishes around the country, and declaring them along the same lines of being terrorists. It's disgusting. We can hope and pray, Sam. When you get down to it, the swamp, I think Trump found out in the first 4 years just how deep the swamp is. And, you're in the right place here with Americans for Limited Government, because that's something we're focused on, like a laser beam, and coming up with different ideas on how to drain the swamp and how to actually replace the administrative state with the power of the elected official, being able to actually have people in the administrative state who are spend less time investigating the elected president and more time working to accomplish that agenda, and which is always a problem for Republicans. So, and was a particular problem for the Trump administration. As a reminder, the Washington Bezos, Washington Post, I call it the Washington Bezos, is they had on the first day, on January 20th, 2017, a first front page article that said resist. And it was urging different, government administrative, bureaucrats to resist the Trump presidency and to call, provide them with tips on things they can write about to take down the Trump presidency. So the Washington Post, which insists that we have to accept the results of the 2020 election, never accepted the results of the 2016 election. And the left never accepted those results. And we spent 3 years dealing with that. A fourth year when you count the Ukraine impeachment, which was similarly just garbage. And so when you see Merrick Garland sitting there all stuffy and stuff, talking about the law and what they're going to do, and understand these people, this guy was going to be a Supreme Court justice if Mitch McConnell hadn't said no. He was going to be a Supreme Court justice. It's unbelievable. He was a judge. He was the chief judge on the District Court of Appeals. He should have, and he was supposedly a moderate. And yet what we see is a functionary who is more than willing to use tactics of intimidation straight out of any of the secret police handbooks from around the world, from dictatorships all around the world, do morning raids and take intimidation tactics against regular people who didn't do anything wrong. And yet that's acceptable. He couldn't bring himself to condemn that raid. He never condemned it. He never condemned the FBI. He never promised to look into it. He denied the facts. Thank goodness we have Senator Hawley and a couple of other members of the committee brought this case and other cases up. I just chose this because I thought the conflict was so sharp, and it really could show you what is actually happening on Capitol Hill. But this is this is not a new problem. This is a problem that we have, and it's a problem which we're going to continue to have until we're able to get in and actually get rid of these guys. And obviously Garland goes away because a new president it all sweeps clean, but he's symptomatic of the problem, and that's to me just really a problem. Shift gears on this question. It's Biden's tax plan. They'll be borrowing from Social Security fund again. They never pay it back. Correct, Jamie. They will never pay it back. The Biden tax plan is in 2033, under the Biden tax plan, we'll have a $50 trillion national debt. That's all you need to know. $50 trillion national debt. So as we're sitting there around just under 32 trillion right now, and we're trying to deal with a debt ceiling, just remember that as we're trying to deal with this debt ceiling, at the same time, when Joe Biden is saying, I won't sign anything but a clean debt ceiling, Joe Biden just produced a budget that results in a $50 trillion national debt in 10 years. That's simple. It's a pretty easy choice. We'll do some more. We're going to do some analysis on the debt and on the budget, and and do our live stream tomorrow on that budget. But just understand, it's nothing more than the standard rhetoric of the left, tax increases and on promised tax increases on everybody. But I guess Joe Biden, if he paid taxes on the money he gets, it would affect him. But I shouldn't say that. It's a lot of tax increases and it's a lot of spending increases. And it's time that we just flatline the spending increases, at least on the domestic side. We may have to spend more on defense, given the fact we've annihilated our munitions capacity in this country, to rapidly kind of resupply ourselves so we can deal with the problems that are not just Ukraine, but we can deal with the problems that exist in the Pacific Ocean with China. And we're going to have to do that fast, and it's going to cost money, unfortunately. The Biden budget does increase spending for defense. And what Congress needs to do on the defense spending is be very, very specific and line out all the defense spending that's being spent on all that defense spending that's being spent on social justice garbage, and get back to having a military that is, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, that whose primary job is to break things. And that's so we need to get back to having a military that has capacity to break things and is focused on breaking things. And quite honestly, we have to get back to a military where Americans will volunteer to be in it. And with the 50% recruitment right now of the goals for the U.S. Army, We're not doing that. The social welfare garbage that's been put into the military has caused families to say, we're not going to go there. The abandonment of Afghanistan has demoralized for our veterans and the like. And they're saying, why did people lost limbs, people lost loved ones, we saw how we left $87 billion of equipment behind. And so people say, why would I put my kid in harm's way with this commander in chief who doesn't respect at all the sacrifice being made at all? It's sickening, truthfully. I'm going to end this with a little shot here because I found it to become a kind of an interesting end to the Merrick Garland discussion. And I'm just going to bring this last little bit up so you can see it. I think give you a sense of Josh Hawley.
Organization without doing its own work.
As my time expires here, a very direct question. How many informants do you have in Catholic churches across America?
I don't know. And I don't believe we have any informants aimed at Catholic churches. We have a rule against investigations based on First Amendment activity, and Catholic churches are obviously First Amendment activity.
Well,
but I don't know the specific answer to your question.
You don't know the specifics of anything, it seems, but apparently on your watch, this Justice Department is targeting Catholics, targeting people of faith specifically for their faith views. And Mr. Attorney, I'll just say to you, it's a disgrace. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Garland, let me just ask you, does your department have a problem with anti-Catholic bias?
Yeah, so there you go. That's the ending of it. Note the first thing he said was, I don't know. And then he said, I don't think we have any. Well, I'm confident that he also doesn't think that they have any, or would testify he didn't think they had any FBI agents roaming around in the crowd on January 6th. Well, we know that's not true. I'm confident he didn't think there were any FBI agents who were running the operation to allegedly kidnap Governor Whitmer from in Michigan. But we know FBI agents were all over that, and FBI informants, and FBI basically was an FBI operation. So we know what's true. And I wanted you to see what members of Congress have to deal with when they're dealing with an attorney general who is committed to hiding the truth and committed to not taking responsibility for abuses, civil rights abuses that are occurring under his watch. It's disgusting. And I agree with those who typed in the comments that Merrick Garland needs to go. We've got a petition out trying to get Congress and support those who are trying to get the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas impeached and thrown out on his ear. But the next guy in line is as bad as Pete Buttigieg is as transportation secretary. He can't do nearly the damage to our country that Merrick Garland is doing. And it's time for him to go as well. And with that, I'm going to end the broadcast. I appreciate all of you who've hung in and watched this, and I hope you found it valuable. Tomorrow, we'll likely be doing a rundown on the budget and some of the alternatives that we think would make a lot more sense to try to restore fiscal sanity in America. With that, this is Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government, wishing you a good evening.